All right, let's talk about serverless. It's one of the biggest buzzwords in the tech world, right? We're promised it's cheaper, it's faster, and it lets developers get back to what they love doing, building cool stuff. But is that the whole story? Is it really the future for every application? Or is there a bit more hype than reality? Okay, let's dig in and figure it out. First, let's kick things off with a pain point that, pretty much every developer and business owner has felt. Just picture that server you're paying for. It's running 24/7, just waiting for something to do. Sure, during the day it might be busy, but what about at 3 a.m.? What about on a Sunday? That server is just sitting there, burning money while it waits. You're paying for capacity that you're just not using. And this right here, this visual, gets to the absolute heart of the matter. On the left, that's the old way. You pay a flat fee for that server to be on all the time, whether it's serving a million people or absolutely no one. But on the right, with serverless, the whole model gets flipped on its head. You only pay for the split seconds your code is actually executing. No traffic, no bill. Simple as that. At least, that's the core promise. Okay, so to really appreciate what's going on, we kind of have to look back at how we got here. Because even when we all moved to the cloud, there was this hidden workload that never really went away. So check out this diagram. It tells the whole story. Look at all those blue boxes in that first column. That's all the stuff your teams have to babysit, even in a cloud world. We're talking patching, updating, scaling. It's a ton of work that isn't actually building new features. Serverless just comes in and whoosh, pushes that line of responsibility way, way down. The provider handles all that mess. Now your team, they get to focus on the good stuff, the code that actually drives the business. All right, so that brings us to the name itself, serverless. And let's be honest, it's a terrible name, right? Because, spoiler alert, there are definitely still servers involved. The whole trick, the real magic, is that they're not your problem anymore. So if you remember one thing from this, it's this. Serverless means you don't manage servers. The cloud provider takes care of all the grunt work, the patching, the scaling, you name it. And your app? It's not one big monolith anymore. It's a collection of tiny individual functions that just wake up, do one specific job, and go back to sleep. I love this analogy. It's just perfect. Think about it. With old school servers, it's like you own a giant power generator in your backyard. You've got to buy it, fill it with gas, fix it when it breaks, and it's running 24/7 even when all the lights in your house are off. But serverless, that's like just plugging into the public power grid. You flip a switch, your light turns on, and you pay for exactly the electricity you used. So much simpler. And this idea of breaking things down gets taken to a whole new level. So look here, on the left, you've got a microservice. And that's pretty good, right? You've got your user service all bundled up. But serverless on the right, it goes even further. It's hyper-granular. Now, creating a user is its own thing. Getting a user is its own separate thing. You're really breaking down the problem into these tiny, manageable Lego blocks. Okay, theory is great, but who's actually using this stuff? Is this just for, side projects, or are big companies actually running their businesses on it? Well, the numbers might actually surprise you. They're huge. I mean, look at this Datadog report. Over 70% of organizations on AWS are using serverless. Let that sink in. 70%. It's not far behind on Google Cloud, and Azure's catching up fast. So yeah, this is not some niche experiment anymore. It's officially mainstream. So what's the language of choice for developers jumping into this? Well, it's a two-horse race, really. Python and Node.js are just dominating. Together, they make up more than half of all AWS Lambda invocations. And it makes sense, right? They're lightweight, they start up super fast, they're just perfectly built for this kind of quick, on-demand world. And the business impact? It's just wild. Get this, CodePen serves 200,000 requests an hour with one DevOps engineer. One. Or Shamrock Trading, they slashed their monthly bill by 10x after ditching Docker. Nordstrom is reacting to customers in real time. MindMap cut costs by 50%. I mean, these are game-changing numbers, and it all comes back to that core idea. Stop managing servers and only pay for what you use. And you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to this quote from Andy Warzen. This is a guy who's been doing this for years in the real world. 7 years, and not one client has regretted it. And he nails the why right at the end. The operational burden is just so much lower. Okay, but it can't all be rainbows and unicorns, right? And it's not. To get the full picture, we absolutely have to talk about the gotchas, the trade-offs. Let's get into the reality check, the cost, and something called the cold start. So Let's circle back to that catchy slogan, only pay for what you use. Is that really true? Well, yes and no. The devil, as they always say, is in the details. Because your serverless app isn't just a function floating in space. It's a whole system. You've got the API gateway, that's like the front door. You've got databases, storage, messaging queues, and every single one of those has its own little price tag. It all gets added to the bill. And here's the kicker. Sometimes the cost of just monitoring and logging your system can be more than the cost of actually running it. Crazy, right? All right, and now for the big one. The most talked about problem in the serverless world, the cold start. So what is it? Simply put, it's that little bit of lag you get when a function hasn't been called in a while. The cloud provider has to basically build a brand new environment on the fly, just for your request, and that takes time. So let's peek under the hood and see what's actually happening during that delay. A request comes in, the platform has to scramble to find some CPU and RAM, then it has to spin up a new container, load the entire runtime, like Node.js or Python, pull in all your code and its dependencies, and only then can it finally run your function. Each one of those steps adds a few milliseconds, and they can really add up. And here's the thing, that delay isn't the same for everyone. It can vary wildly. In fact, one single decision you make can make your cold starts almost twice as long as someone else's. And what's that big decision? It's the programming language you choose. And this is why it matters so much. You see, languages like Python and Node.js, they're built to be lean and fast. They start up in a flash. But then you have something like Java, which has to fire up the entire heavy Java virtual machine before it can even think about running your code. So its cold start is just naturally way, way longer. And that's not just a technical detail. That's a delay your user is actually feeling. All right, so we've seen the good, the bad, and the chili. What's the final verdict? Well, serverless is an amazing, powerful tool. But it's not a magic bullet. It's not the perfect solution for everything. And anyone who tells you it is probably trying to sell you something. Here's the deal. The absolute sweet spot for serverless is for anything with spiky or just plain unpredictable traffic. You know, things that happen in bursts, like processing a photo someone just uploaded, or for getting a new project off the ground super fast. But if you have a workload that's just humming along at a high, constant rate, 24/7, an old-school, always-on server might honestly be cheaper for you at the end of the day. Okay, so let's boil it all down. What are the big takeaways? 1, it's about no server management, not no servers. 2, you pay for what you use, but use is more than just running your code. 3, it's perfect for spiky workloads where you need to be agile. And 4, and this is a big one, your tech choices, especially your language, will have a huge effect on your performance and your bill. So that really just leaves one last question. And this one's for you. Now that you know the hype, the reality, and the trade-offs, is your next project going to be serverless? The answer, of course, is it depends. But now, at least you know what to ask to find that answer.